Welcome, my name is Nino Di Cara. I'm the founder of Electric Autonomy Canada, and over a 6-week period, we're hosting a series of panel discussions with leaders from across the battery and automotive sectors to explore the potential for a national Canadian electric vehicle battery supply chain. In this, the second of our discussion series, we focus on Canadian research and development and innovation in EV batteries. We know this is a hot topic of interest with over 450 people who have registered to attend this particular episode, and we've also received several questions in advance. I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Invest in Canada. Invest in Canada works with global investors to unlock business ventures and facilitate expansion in Canada. We're grateful for their support for this initiative. I'd also like to thank our episode sponsor, Nova Scotia Business Inc. Nova Scotia is well positioned to create new companies and attract others from out of province by leveraging their thriving and evolving battery ecosystem. Opportunities exist to further develop next generation battery technologies and manufacturing processes in Nova Scotia for electric vehicles and beyond. Canadian R&D already plays an integral role in developing and improving EV battery technologies. The question is, how do we leverage this position to add value to our national battery supply chain? To unpack this topic, I'd like to welcome and introduce you to our expert panelists who are going to help set the scene for this important discussion. They are Dr. Jeff Dahn, NSERC Tesla Canada Industrial Research Chair at Dalhousie University. Dr. Chisu Kim, Research Director at Institut de Recherche de Hydro-Québec. Dr. Soeren Striepe, Senior Manager, Electrified Powertrain and Batteries at Magna International. And my colleague, Emma Jarratt, Managing Editor at Electric Autonomy Canada, who'll be moderating today's discussion. Please note, out of respect to the confidentiality of our panelists' work, we will not be addressing any questions regarding specific automakers. So Emma, over to you.
Thanks very much, Nino. And thank you to our panelists for generously giving your time to us today. So to set us off on the right foot, Soeren, could I ask you to just give us a sense of where Canada is sitting right now on the global stage with respect to a battery ecosystem? In short, are we where we need to be?
Yeah, so as Nino already mentioned, Canadian research in batteries has contributed to the advancement of the technology and products for electric vehicles and other applications of batteries. And this is based or can be exemplified for research that is done at universities, by research teams there, by research done at some of our battery-related companies. So yes, we have a reputation of excellence in research for advanced battery technologies here in Canada.
And Chisu, are you happy with the trajectory the Canadian battery R&D is on, or is there anything you'd like to see change or improve or have a greater emphasis on in terms of funding or initiatives?
Yes, Canada has very good researchers and excellent innovators and good university, and I'm very proud of being a part of this scientific community in Canada. But what I see here is that we are all kind of independent and separated. So I see we don't have kind of the center of gravity to put together different stakeholders, different expertise to create synergy.
Okay. And Jeff, do you agree with the a need for a center of gravity? And if so, what does that look like to you?
Well, there's certainly efforts going on in other countries, like in the UK, the Faraday Institute that's been initiated in the UK to try to pool all the university and government labs together in a single effort to try to move advanced battery technology forward. In fact, here in Canada, there's been a call in some government documents for a battery center of excellence to be formed in Canada. And I think that would be very good. I don't know where it will be sited. There's a lot of reasons to put it in Nova Scotia, for example. We have good university researchers, a growing ecosystem of startup companies and established companies like Novonix. But there's also reasons to put it in Quebec, for example, too. Quebec has the fantastic R&D facilities at Hydro-Québec and many university researchers there, as well as the minerals in the ground that may lead to establishing a manufacturing there. So anyway, I think it would be really great if this battery center of excellence is established, and it could be a great thing for the country.
And Chisu and Soeren, do you guys want to expand on that? Chisu, you just talked about the center of gravity. Were you thinking about the same thing, a center for excellence?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very long journey from the invention of new material to make money in the end. It takes at least 2-3 years or decades to be commercially viable. So it's very difficult to survive this period alone, especially as a small startups. So I believe the Center of Excellence could be kind of sandbox where different the partners can play around. The Center of Excellence can provide pilot machines or kind of test platform, or provide comment, technical support. I think it's important to enforce our value chain. Especially I see Canada is very blessed with the natural resources and pretty good established the automotive manufacturing industry, but I see we have weakness in the midstream. So I believe this Center of Excellence can be contribute to accelerate to establish our ecosystem all around the value supply chain of battery manufacturing.
And Soeren, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, as mentioned, there are great research teams in Canada, but I would say they are a bit isolated in their initiatives. Yes, there are collaborative projects with the industry and maybe between research teams as well, but overall they come up here or there, and they're great projects, but they're a bit isolated and in my view not enough. So a center of excellence certainly would help to enhance the, let's say, the R&D and innovation ecosystem. But my thought would go actually a bit beyond that. Kind of what Jeff mentioned, the UK example of Faraday Institute, kind of a community. So it does not necessarily has to stop at one center somewhere in one location. It could be a community of multiple research teams and industry participants being in a constant exchange about what projects, what technology challenges are relevant, what projects could be done. And there's a climate of, yes, competing in a way, but collaborating a lot and being aware that through this community, good and excellent results will come out of it.
So I guess the elephant in the room question is, this seems to be something that is an idea that would have lots of support. Why hasn't the Center of Excellence been set up already? Feel free to jump in, anybody.
I'll jump in if it's okay. You know, I think many university scientists like myself, for example, we have funding from industrial partners, and the industrial partners are looking to get an advantage over the competition. So they don't want, you know, us to be sharing good developments until those are exploited by themselves, you know, to move their own products forward. So it makes it difficult in some senses to set up a very collaborative center. So that, you know, some creative thinking has to go into this very, very carefully, I think.
Yeah, IP and intellectual property is definitely a factor there. It makes the collaborative work a bit more challenging. It needs to be organized, but I think there are ways to organize that. One reason why it has not been established, maybe it needs some leadership, some additional stronger leadership to really go for it. And at the end of the day, it needs some basis funding as well.
Yeah, I believe a center of excellence is not the whole solution, it's just a part of solution. As Jeff mentioned, the technology is highly sensitive and very competitive. So we don't want to share everything, especially for new technology. It's kind of sensitive in terms of confidentiality. So I think we need some benchmark. Everywhere there are pretty big success story around the center of excellence, how to handle and keep balance between productivity and the confidentiality.
So digging a little deeper on that, I mean, you know, I think we all know the global thought about Canada is that we have all these great resources and we send them out to other places in the world to be commercialized or turned into product. Is that kind of what's happened here with the IP of battery research? It feels like we've had tons of interest from industrial partners. They've come in and, you know, created a situation where it makes it harder for us as a country to have an institute dedicated to just like the universal advancement of battery technology. Is that a fair assessment? Again, that's to anybody. Feel free to chime in.
Well, I'm willing to jump in here. You know, it's first of all, there aren't too many Canadian partners that one could partner with in the advanced battery space from a manufacturing side. How many lithium-ion battery manufacturers do we have in the country? There's Electrovia, and that's about it. Molly Energy in Maple Ridge, BC, has its R&D facility for E1 Molly in BC, but the manufacturing is offshore in Taiwan at this time. You know, so if you're a Canadian battery researcher looking for industrial support, your options are relatively limited from Canadian side. And that's just the way it is. But I think as time is moving forward, you know, an example at Dalhousie University is Mark Oberbach has a large NSERC Alliance grant with Novonix, which is headquartered in Bedford, Nova Scotia. So there are opportunities for support now from Canadian businesses supporting the university. And I believe, you know, Fostech Lithium supported the work at University of Montreal for many years as well. So there have been some pretty good examples of support from industry, but not really from battery manufacturers.
So, I mean, Soeren and Jeff, you kind of talked about maybe having like a network of centers of excellence. Soeren, do you think that it would make sense then that an OEM would be dedicated to one center and they would support that one and a different OEM would support another? Would that be a way to get around this?
It would not be what I was thinking of. Yes, the OEMs means in this case automotive OEMs, or could be battery manufacturers. Yes, they are competitors, but you can, in my view, there's examples that you can establish a community exchanging about overall targets and overall topics to work on. But then you have specific projects where an OEM would work. Typically, there's only one OEM, but it could be more than one as well, if they agree, okay, we are in this together, to work on this. So I would not really give, in that sense, or divide it up in center by OEMs or something like that. I would say it would be more based on topic areas if you want to have kind of focus areas defined. And then in my view, there would be a good opportunity that there's actually a high level of interest by battery manufacturing companies, players that are around the battery systems, battery management system, startup companies even, that they all are actually interested to be part of this community and part of this process of progressing the technologies. Yes, in separate projects at the end of the day, defined projects with confidentiality terms and so on, and how do you say, walls up so that secret sauce is not exchanged. But I think there are examples that this can be organized. I think this topic area is very attractive for a lot of companies as well, to say, yes, we want to be part of it.
So speaking of entities that want to be part of this, let's just pretend that there's a center of excellence set up and I'm a candidate coming from an international place. And I've approached you three as experts in this field. You know, why should I study in Canada? I'd love to hear your sales pitch for that. So Chisu, maybe you can start us off. Why should I come here?
Your question very pertinent to me. Why should I work in Canada? First of all, the working environment is very attractive. And personally, I can keep a very good balance between my personal life and professional life. And now I see a great potential in the battery manufacturing industry, not only battery manufacturing, the recycling, the mining, and the production of raw material in whole value chain of battery-related industry. And Canada, you know, the battery tend to be produced where it is consumed, because most of materials are dangerous goods. So it's pretty expensive to transport from one place to the other place. So it means the battery manufacturing should be closer to the market, and the raw material should be closer to the manufacturing site. So I believe Canada has everything needed to produce battery pack in the whole ecosystem.
All right, Jeff, let's throw it over to you. What's the Dahn pitch?
Well, I watch it all the time. I watch my own graduate students try to decide where to go to work. Most of them have multi-job offers and have a choice to go abroad or to stay in Canada. Some pick E1 Moly in Vancouver. Some stay in Nova Scotia and work Novonix or Salient. And some go to the US or Europe. One fellow just went to a company called Skeleton in Estonia. It's a supercapacitor maker. So they go all over the world for whatever reasons they may have, you know, the interest of the job or the salary or, you know, the lifestyle in the various countries. So I think, you know, you can convince people to work in Canada. We have a very good social support system here, which many other countries don't have. And we do have companies that are at the actual cutting edge. You know, E1 Moly, for example, they make very high quality lithium ion cells, and the R&D outfit in Maple Ridge, BC is absolutely top notch. Hydro-Québec has fantastic facilities for battery R&D, and you know, it's a francophone environment, so it's a natural for francophones to go and work in such a place. For example, you know, we offer all kinds of good opportunities here, and some people like them, and some people choose to go elsewhere. It's sort of that simple.
What do you think, Soeren?
Well, I think I would really point out this multitude of initiatives now, and this strong initiative for Canada to become a leader in advanced battery technologies, or to further advance its position as a leader. And yes, I would argue with these Center of Excellence really would help, and the community to be set up to instill this excitement. Canada, a leader in technology, and particularly also the aspect of the complete value that is possible into applications, not only automotive, other applications as well, and the story and the part of a cleaner value chain. Yes, that it's all regional, that it is clean energy being used to make these batteries, and that there's the intent to use ethical processes and so on, so that it is a very positive story, which is actually part of the motivation, in my view, for individuals to get into the battery and electric propulsion space. So that would be just an extension of that motivation to be part of this initiative, Clean Batteries.
And when you have a center of excellence, I know you talked about how you could break it down thematically for batteries, looking at different types. How likely is it that in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be working with batteries that don't look anything like what we have today? They have different materials in them, different capabilities, and knowing that the technology is advancing so quickly, does that run the risk of making a center for excellence that's established tomorrow obsolete in just a few years?
I'll take that. So, you know, across the country right at the moment, there's researchers working on all kinds of batteries beyond lithium ion. Okay. It's on the radar of many, many researchers across the country. We have experts in solid electrolytes and solid state batteries, and batteries based on zinc instead of lithium, and so forth. So any center of excellence, I think, would also have a component of beyond lithium ion in it. You know, you'd have prototyping facilities for companies to come in and, you know, build prototypes that they could then evaluate in the products they want to sell. But at the same time, you would have this forward-looking view. And we're very well set up in Canada for that. There's really, really powerful research going on across the country in many of the universities for beyond lithium ion. It's not a problem.
And, you know, Chisu, I'd just be curious to hear your thoughts on that, because obviously Hydro-Québec has their dedicated facility, and I assume there's lots of advancement happening there. Is that your experience, that the facilities can keep up with the changing research, and you know, it's not really an issue, it just evolves organically together?
In terms of facility, it's kind of universal. So I don't think the specific technology change the infrastructure required to build pilot product. And I agree with Jeff, as a kind of a visionary center of excellence. We need the broad technology portfolio, and to support not only narrow focused the topic, but also the broaden the focus area to support different the technology. But in terms of batteries for EV electric vehicles, the requirements are very challenging. So I think it would take a long time, decades of time to replace. Even I'm not sure it could be totally replaced or not, but I believe the lithium-based battery will continue to be used for decades to come.
Great. So one theme we're noticing that's come up like just from day one of this series is there's a really intense interest on the public and policy side about recycling batteries or second life. And, I'd love to hear the group's thoughts on how you think that fits into the R&D side. I mean, you're starting with the battery day one. Do you think about what happens on day 10,000 when the battery's had its first life at least and needs to move on to the next phase?
Yeah, maybe I jump in there. So there is firsthand, yes, there is still a very strong drive to advance the technology. Let's say lithium-ion battery technology for electric vehicles now, that it really is optimal for the vehicle in use. That's what the end customer sees first. That it is very dense, energy dense, that it is has powerful, can be charged very fast, that it integrates extremely well into the car in a nice package, that it is not too expensive. So that's a big thrust area, and to some extent that disregards, not intentionally, but it is somehow the secondary to look at, okay, what happens to those batteries when they come out of the cars? And that is understood as a big opportunity as well. Yeah, to use these batteries, they still have energy left. And when the car is done, 70, 80% is quite possible at the end of capacity is still left in the batteries. So how can this be used? Can these be used? Or then later on in recycling? And yes, there is some contradiction in the sense of if they're really well integrated into the vehicle, glued together, it's not that easy potentially to take them apart for second life or recycling. So that is an important topic. There will be a lot of batteries coming. There's a lot of valuable materials in them coming back out of the use phase. And that's actually also a great opportunity, and it should be considered, and I'm sure it will be considered in research and development as well. And there will be innovations in that regards.
Yeah, I really believe the modern lithium-ion battery is gonna outlast the vehicle for sure. And it's still gonna be good. So you don't want to just recycle it. You want to reuse it. But like Soeren mentioned, the batteries are integrated into the modules and into the actual pack very, very robustly. So you either have to figure out how to use the whole pack itself in a good way, or at the manufacturing side, you have to say, okay, look, we're designing second use into this thing that we're building. So I think that'll come in the future. I don't think it makes sense to recycle something that's still good. So we'll see where that goes over time.
I believe second life use is very reasonable in terms of to reduce carbon footprint and the environment point of view, but it might be the remanufacturing might be more expensive than fresh manufacturing, due to the reason mentioned now. So to make the second life possible, I believe the design of battery pack should be reoriented and keep this second use life in mind to enable the disassembling of a component easier and cheaper. And also, we need to think about the regulation and policies, like who will own this ownership for the second life, and who will take the warranty for the rest of lives. And from the technology point of view, I think the estimation of remaining life and performance should be precise and rapid. So this is an absolutely interesting topic, and we need more research on that.
So what percentage of battery researchers, battery scientists' work when you're actually designing the battery is dedicated to thinking about how it could be disassembled later on? Is that factored in at all, or is that something that the programs need to evolve to incorporate?
At least I think in the automotive development, yes, it is a consideration. But as I mentioned, the main focus is actually to compete, having the best battery, the best electric vehicle for the first user. So that is probably a reality today. Not saying that it is not a consideration at all, but that should be, and it will be, an important area and a differentiator for companies as well at some point, to say, yes, we have this vehicle is on the market, and after the end of life, the battery still actually can be monetized again, can be sold, can be used for something else. So reducing the total cost of ownership through that as well. So and it is a good story. A lot of end customers will consider that the carbon footprint of their vehicle, and that's part of it, recyclability or reusability of the battery.
And in terms of how much life there is actually left in the battery at the end of, like once the car is done, what is the usage of the average battery in the average car in terms of discharge or charge cycles? And how does that compare to what the battery is capable of overall? And I mean, I know all batteries are different, but generally speaking.
Typically, if I may jump in, typically the batteries are engineered for electric vehicles, pure electric vehicles are engineered that they have 80% of their original capacity left at the end of the vehicle life. So that there's good value for the owner of the vehicle until the vehicle is done. There's different uses, different loads on the batteries, so it may not always be the case. The vehicle may last longer. Yeah, so between 60 and 80%, I would say, and Jeff, you jump in, or Chisu, is to be expected that when the vehicle is done, the battery comes out of the car, is still there. So you can cycle it, you can charge it and discharge it. Yeah, you need to understand the state of the health of this battery. You have to make sure it is safe in the second life. Applications typically discussed are stationary applications then, and not in the vehicle again.
Yeah, just to follow on that, if you think for a moment that modern electric car, let's just make the math easy, can do 500 kilometers on a charge. If you can do 800 charge-discharge cycles, 100% depth of discharge, that's 400,000 kilometers of battery that the vehicle would go. And most people don't drive a vehicle more than 400,000 kilometers before it rusts out or falls apart. And 800 charge-discharge cycles for a modern lithium-ion battery, this is not very challenging. So there's definitely going to be, at the end of the EV lifetime, there will be battery life left for further use. So I think we all have to be thinking about that and selecting battery chemistries that can promote this second life rather than going directly to recycling, right? I think that's an important decision to make here. The other thing too is if you have batteries that have this incredibly long cycle life, say 10,000 cycles, you'll never use that in a vehicle. So why not connect the vehicle to the grid and charge and discharge, store energy from solar and wind and deliver it back when the car is parked? It won't affect the ultimate driving range of the car if you have 10,000 cycles and you only need 800 to go 400,000 kilometers, right? You have to start thinking of these other things.
So tell me, do your students get bonus points if they can incorporate end of life solutions, or like a better structure for how to, disassemble a battery if it does get recycled? Is that factored in at all in your lab?
Well, remember, we don't make batteries. We make cells. Okay, a battery is a collection of cells. So when you're talking about disassembling batteries, it's a different thing than disassembling a cell. We would hope that the cell doesn't need to be disassembled in the fact that it still has a lot of life left. The reason to disassemble a battery would be to take the individual cells out and reconfigure them into some other battery.
Okay, so the V2G theme is also something really popular that we've noticed, and in terms of how much interest there is on a policy side, have any of you, been consulting on this with either companies or governments and sort of advising on how we might transition to this next step in a more meaningful way? I mean, we all know that there are pilots running and that definitely research is being done, but are there any like solid steps being taken to make use of the batteries that will be coming up in the next few years as, done with their car life?
If I can jump in, V2G is the one important topic in the energy transition. And it definitely makes sense because the battery technology enables 10,000 cycles now. So why not we use the car as the small the energy storage system, which can store the renewable energy when it is available, and use the energy to supply the electricity for the housing or building. It totally makes sense. But it's a part of utility, and the many regulations and stakeholders are involved. So it should be the prepared. I know there are a bunch of demonstration programs all around the world. It should be well prepared to make this happen. And even the battery right now, most of the battery packs are designed, engineered to use only for driving. This means the design of a battery should be reconsidered if we want to use the battery for the V2G application.
Yeah, vehicle to grid. I believe it's technically absolutely feasible and demonstrated. If I didn't intend to name any companies, but Ford F-150 it just was announced. I think it has charging capabilities to power the house for 2 or 3 days. I think I remember hearing that. So this is not. Let's phrase it the other way around. Technically, it is absolutely feasible, and I think one point, and also feasible from the battery standpoint. One point to consider is a bit of a potential resistance for individual end customers. There is the fear, okay, I give up control over the most valuable part of my vehicle, the battery, and it will be used up by an outside organization. So there may be some resistance to accept that, and that should be accounted for. One way is to make it very attractive, to pay a good price for the energy that comes out of the battery, out of the car, when the battery is discharged there. And the question regarding the policy side, I'm not really in that, and I don't feel I should comment on that side. Technically possible.
Great. So our audience questions are coming in fast and furious, so I'm feel like I've hogged enough of your time. We should move on to what everybody else is wondering about. And one of the questions that's come in that speaks to the research being done in Canada and what might make it a little bit unique in the world is climate considerations. So what kind of innovative research are we doing in Canada that is different to other countries with more moderate climates, specific to ensuring that the batteries here, like they come from Canada, can perform with a spectrum of different weather challenges?
Okay, I'll take that at the beginning. Electric vehicles that are produced in China and in the US and elsewhere operate in all kind of climates today. They operate in Norway and Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and they do just fine. You know, so the kind of things that are going on in the battery management system include temperature control of the battery pack. You know, so even though the outside weather may be really cold or really hot, the battery pack itself is being maintained at a comfortable temperature for the lithium-ion chemistry.
Yeah, that is I'm aligned with that, with Jeff's view there. Particularly automotive products, they are engineered and intended to be used globally in all kinds of climates. So to really look at specific Canadian climate research, yeah, you could say this is colder in the winter and the winters are longer. Yeah, I have to complain about that a bit. But no, the reality is, yeah, you can have a closer look at lithium plating and fast charging at cold temperatures or something like that. But I think this is all part of the development work that's already happening by battery developers around the globe. So it appears to be almost a bit artificial if you look at automotive applications. If you look at specific mining equipment or something like that, and batteries for that, that may be different. There may be different needs and different application scenarios.
And Chisu, do you agree with that, or do you have thoughts to add?
Yeah, but for the passenger car are designed for the being used everywhere. So I don't think the car in Canada is different. Differently designed, but for some vehicles locally used, like school buses or local delivery vans, could be different in terms of thermal management or how to balance between the driving energy and the air conditioning energy, like that.
Right. So another question was about circling back to that center of excellence that we talked about off the top, and wondering if we could turn the lemon that is COVID into lemonade. And, you know, now that everybody is on Zoom and used to doing things digitally, is this an opportunity to have a cyber center of excellence rather than a bricks and mortar location? Or do you think there's still like a real need for a designated physical spot for everybody to gather? You know, Chisu, maybe you can just start us off on that, and then Jeff and Soeren.
As cyber research, I really are jealous if I can do it. Probably for kind of modeling or AI, this kind of technology could be possible, but the cell physical battery, we need the machine and we need to touch upon the material. So I don't think the cyber center of excellence could be a reality.
Jeff, what do you think?
It's pretty hard to do experimental science with Zoom. I can tell you that. You're not going to build prototype lithium ion cells or any other chemistry on Zoom. Not going to happen. So You gotta have bricks and mortar and real human beings doing real work.
Yeah, the question is, does it has to be in one location? Let's say for all over Canada in one location, or is there, does it make sense to have several bricks and mortar facilities? And I'm a bit torn about that because I like the idea of co-location and working closely together and having the chance to very fast and quickly exchange ideas and solve problems together. On the other hand, a distributed system, how I understand the Faraday institution in the UK, or the collaboration of the leading institutions in Germany, there are several, and they're all part of one community in that sense as well. So that can work as well. I would drive and say, okay, maybe we can actually get more going and working together, having this networked approach. Yes, we need bricks and mortar for making cells, for testing cells, and so on. Absolutely, you have to prototype and put it into applications. It doesn't work without that.
Great. And so in a little bit of a newsy angle on what we're chatting about today, Bloomberg NEF just published their annual report, EV report. And one of their headline points was how the rate of progress on heavy duty vehicles or large trucks is lagging. And I'm wondering, for all of you, what role does battery R&D play in that evolution? I guess really, is it that we need dedicated research to go into cells or batteries that will go into large vehicles and then have a separate stream for like your regular passenger EVs? Or is the work that's happening, in your lab with respect to just lithium ion cells or whatever cells you are working with sufficient to meet both needs?
Well, I'll start. There's a good example of a company in Quebec that makes electric garbage trucks. Lion Electric makes electric garbage trucks. They make electric school buses. People are making electric trucks. But I think the real concern is when you talk about long haul trucking, from Vancouver to Montreal. Okay, what are you going to do in that situation? Well, the person's going to have to stop along the way and charge. There's no way around it. It's just that simple. And as soon as you come to grips with that, it's not a mind-blowing difficulty anymore, right? You stop and charge. That's what you do. Pretty simple. No matter what technology you have in the vehicle, if you're going from Vancouver to Montreal, you have to stop and charge, okay? You also have to eat. You also have to go to the bathroom. So do it all at once.
So the different type of vehicles, they have different duty cycles. So different parts, different peak charge and discharge, different braking cycles like that. So I think there is room to customize the chemistry or cell design to better support the different the duty cycles. But in terms of the developed point of view, I believe it's more like the engineering of module, pack, and BMS. So I believe cell chemistry is rather universal, but we have room to customize to better support a different duty cycle. But definitely we need the customized the system development for this the heavy duty vehicles.
Soeren, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, heavy duty applications. In my understanding would be that the technology is there. So yes, application related R&D can be helpful. I would, and this is now just kind of suspecting that it is actually more the focus of the companies that are able to provide good battery systems, may be very much on passenger cars at this stage to provide these large programs. Tesla, Volkswagen, all companies are really focusing on, all automotive companies are having a very strong dynamics and pulling along quite a bit of capacity of battery companies going along with them, that potentially companies that, and again, I'm speculating a bit there, companies like school bus companies or heavy truck companies, off-road equipment, tractor, agriculture, all these uses where electric propulsion has its merits as well, that they may not have actually the supply of engineering services, of systems that they really can, that they really would need to fulfill their program needs there. But it's more a question I'm posing. Could this be the reason? Yeah.
So another question that's come up that sort of circles back to what we hinted at earlier in this talk is, do you foresee the need for government regulations or actions to protect Canadian startup companies and the IP that they develop from getting hoovered up by multinational manufacturers? And obviously this is specific to batteries, battery technology. But is there that need to stop the commercialization of our knowledge, basically?
Well, this is what patent protection is all about. If you're a Canadian startup company and you have solid patent protection for your IP, and you file not only in Canada but US and in Asia and so forth, you're really starting to protect your technology. You have to be able to police it down the road, and maybe you'll have to partner somebody with deeper pockets to do that, but that's what patents are about.
Soeren, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'm aligned with that position. I would say I don't even know how to manage that, to avoid this, to avoid that IP would go into applications. It's in the interest of, it's part of the business. It's part of this of the idea, to say, yeah, we want to have impact. Yes, we want to have business success, and yes, we need stipulations and a framework that my investment in a technology is protected. Is it a company? Is it a nation, or is it Canada? If there is taxpayers' money, that needs to be stipulated in a way that there's some level, that there's good protection for that. But just to say no, it has to be stopped. In principle, I would not agree. It's counterproductive actually.
And Chisu?
Protection of IP is kind of a universal thing in modern chemistry. So I don't think it's a specific the topic in Canada. But what I see is we have a huge amount of natural resources and mining minerals, but more than the 90% are used outside of Canada. So I think there is kind of the place where government can play to improve the situation, to keep the whole value chain is active in Canada.
Great. So we have like mere minutes left, but to the group, double-barreled question for you. What are you most excited about with battery technology development over the next 5 years? And if you were king or queen of the world for a day, what would be the #1 battery problem you'd solve? Do you want to just start us off, Chisu?
The new technology, it's not a big difference from now and 5 years later. Always the cost is the most the strong demand from the market, and energy density, safety. So I think that kind of the demands will remain same. But one thing I see the interesting the topic I wanted to address is uh, the, how to produce the battery. So as we talk about the second life now, we want to make battery manufacturing more environmentally friendly and sustainable. So like the design engineering should be considering this point of view, and I believe the technology also should take more attention on this the make battery manufacturing more sustainable.
Yeah, I'm very much aligned with that, Chisu. So yes, excited about the making the batteries use in electric propulsion, for example, for less carbon, reduced carbon footprint in mobility and transportation. Absolutely, and yes, there is the topic of manufacturing of the batteries, in the sense that in the manufacturing phase, there's, what I've seen in studies, there's higher CO2 emissions when compared to manufacturing an internal combustion engine vehicle, this fossil fuel engines. However, yeah, as I mentioned, excited that in use, these vehicles are overall have a reduced carbon footprint. But if I see the topic of manufacturing the batteries and advancing that to less carbon-intensive processes would be another great step in this context.
What I'm most excited about is when I, in 5-10 years, walk down the street, talk to a neighbor says, you know, I was thinking about buying a new car and I bought electric. And the reason I bought electric is because it made the most sense for the environment, for my wallet, for everything, you know? And once people realize that electric is actually a cheaper investment than a gas car, it's going to be awesome, you know? And we're going to move down this trajectory that we want to move on much, much faster. So that for me is what's going to excite me. And I hope, you know, I'm 64, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to live long enough to see people saying, you know, I bought electric because it's the right thing to do. And it's actually better, you know, cost-wise, environment-wise, everything. That's just so exciting. Really, it is.
Right. Well, that's all we have time for. I have to hand this back to Nino now, but thank you so much for your time and your insights. You've been gracious and this has been great. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I'd just like to say what a great answer to go out on the webinar with. Thank you to Emma for moderating the discussion, and I'd like to add my thanks to all the panelists for the terrific insights they've shared and expertise with us today. I'd also like once again to thank our presenting sponsor, Invest in Canada, for coming on board to support this series, and our episode sponsor, Nova Scotia Business Inc. And next week, our third episode in the series will be moderated by Theo Yameogo, of America's mining and metals leader for EY. That session will be focused on battery metals extraction and processing, and Theo will be exploring with the panel exactly what it will take for Canada to supply the world with sustainably extracted inputs for global battery supply chains. It's free to register on the Electric Autonomy website, and so please go there and sign up, and we'll see you next week.